Time is now. Let's go.
The top 10 NFL teams, according to Colin.
It may be my weakest number 10 team ever, the Dallas Cowboys. They're 3-0 on the road. Pittsburgh handed them the game. But you know what? They're doing it without Micah and DeMarcus Lawrence. And, you know, I've said this before. I watched Kirk Cousins on Thursday night and Dak Prescott, you know, on Sunday night. You know, you can never tell his mood. Dak hadn't played well. CeeDee Lamb disappeared, and Dak figures out a way to win. So there's a lot of things I don't like. I don't think they're close to a Super Bowl team, but they have a winning record. That's something, and they're 3-0 on the road, and that's something. And I do think McCarthy and Dak get along. That wasn't the case with the Jets. That's why they made a coaching move, so I'll put them at 10.
Number 9.
And now I proudly put the Falcons at 9. I like this team. They've won 3 of their last 4. Only loss comes to the Chiefs. All 3 have come with Kirk Cousins in game-winning drives. I already thought he was a great fit. I have no problem Penix being on the bench. I like their O-line, their run game. Raheem Morris is an offensive-friendly defensive coach who I think grew with Sean McVay. I like this team. I picked him to win the AFC South. I picked him to be a potential number 1 seed in the NFC and win 12 games. They are what I thought they were. Number 9.
Number 8.
The Bills. You know. The minute I like them, I mean, they have lost to the Ravens and Texans. After the Chiefs, those could be the 2 best teams maybe in the AFC. They're losing to the right teams, but they've been held under 300 yards 3 of the last 4 games. I don't want to hear about excuses that you were missing a slot receiver from Boise State. Kansas City won last night over 400 yards, missing all sorts of people and making Juju Smith-Schuster Jerry Rice. I don't want to hear about it. This team is inconsistent. I don't like their game management. They're a little banged up. And they're losing a good team, so I'll still put them at number 8.
Number 7.
The Texans beat them. Only lost this year. Came on the road against the Vikings, so they're 4-1. I think they're a bit immature and young. They lead the NFL in penalties. I think they have the potential to beat themselves in a big game. I think the Joe Mixon injury hurt C.J. Stroud. I mean, look at Caleb Williams. Now the Bears can run the ball a little bit. He looked pretty good, doesn't he? I think C.J. Stroud is excellent, one of the guys in the league I like to watch. But I do think Joe Mixon's absence. I mean, by the way, there's a reason the Bengals defense is bad. Part of it is ball control. You know, they have to score through the air. They score quickly. Joe Mixon's been underrated. I like the Texans. I'll put him at 7.
Number 6.
I may have the Packers a little low at 6. They could be better. But after that ugly pick 6 against the Rams, Jordan Love at 140 passer rating. The defense leads the NFL with 45 big plays. We love their tight end, wide receiver grouping. That Kraft kid, it is something else. They also lead the NFL in takeaways. That's rare for the Packers. So they make big plays on both sides of the ball. Again, I think they're probably better than 6. They just, I'm getting halves. I'm getting quarters. I love them instead of a full game, but let's put them at 6.
Number 5.
I don't think the Commanders are a fluke. I said I thought they'd make the playoffs going into the season. And I think basically what we said with Jaden Daniels, we said he was going to be Lamar Jackson light. I just didn't think he would be Lamar Jackson light in September and October of his rookie year. I think he's for real. I think he's coachable. You know, when a coach and a coordinator are singing publicly a quarterback's praises in camp. What do coaches always say in camp with a rookie? He's coming along. Let's lower expectations. Long way to go. No, they were like, whew. This kid's magic. This kid's unbelievable. I like their front office. I like their coordinator and their coach. NFL, they're leading the NFL in points per drive. That's a Vegas stat. I got Washington at 5.
Number 4.
The Lions now are so consistent, they're kind of boring. They're on a bye. They're 3-1. Best offensive line in the sport. Very well balanced. Number 7 passing. Number 6 rushing. I think they should rush the ball more, in my opinion. I think that when they're at their best. Jamison Williams is becoming a scary deep threat. That matters. You can't cheat on that run game. You got to keep your safeties back now. So they can run the ball and eat the clock and go deep. Hutchinson has become T.J. Watt level dominant on the edge. I have the boring Lions At 4.
Number 3.
The Ravens, I love them. I love Lamar. Huge energy. I don't think they're necessarily built to beat the Chiefs. I think they're built to beat everybody else in the league, not called the Chiefs. Number 1 rushing offense. And I say, well, they can just keep the ball away from Mahomes. Yeah, whatever. Doesn't matter. Give him 13 seconds, he'll win. I love Derrick Henry. I think the Cowboys should have grabbed him. The Ravens, the smarter franchise, did. Lamar in the red zone against the Bengals. I know it's the Bengals, but this is funny. 6 for 6, 4 touchdown passes. Oh, I forgot. He doesn't win in the playoffs. You guys can keep taking that side. I'll take the side, and Lamar Jackson's good. We'll see who wins that argument.
Number 2.
The Vikings. I mean, listen, they're beating good teams. The last 4 wins are the Niners, the Texans, the Packers, and the Jets. They lead the NFL in point differential. Their rush defense is fantastic. Some of the reason the Jets aren't running, they couldn't run. This Brian Flores, I know he's got a lawsuit with the NFL. That dude can coach. That dude can flat coach. That's the best coaching staff to me outside of Kansas City in the league. Spags and Reed is what's happening in Minnesota.
Number 1.
Kansas City, literally last night on Monday Night Football, was showing off. They did a Warriors with KD and Steph and Clay and Draymond. They were screwing around and showing off. And, I mean, Juju Smith-Schuster's career over. Oh, wait. Kareem Hunt out of the league, career over. Oh, wait. Everybody else is circumstantial. The Chiefs, I don't want to hear about Joe Burrow's defense and Josh Allen missing a receiver. I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to hear about, well, Lamar's got 3 new offensive linemen. Isaiah Pacheco's gone. Rashee Rice is gone. They're bringing guys off the beach.
Okay. Well, that's because the Kansas City Chiefs have the best coaching staff. That's why. That's why you make those excuses for the Ravens, Joe Burrow. Patrick Mahomes is not winning all those games if the Bengals defense is the same as the Kansas City Chiefs defense. So again, you can talk about the Chiefs as a whole, and again, that's just why the Chiefs are consistently so great because of the coaching staff. That's why you can bring in Juju. That's why you can bring in Kareem Hunt. You can bring in these other players and they find a way. And that's just the brilliance of, Andy Reid and Spags. I mean, it just becomes absolutely unstoppable, quite frankly. And obviously you have the great Patrick Mahomes, and that's certainly not going to hurt either. But like, what do you want Joe Burrow to do in the game against the Ravens? The guy absolutely balled out. He's the leading, he's top in touchdowns. He only has 2 interceptions, passing yards. Like everything he's doing is great, and yet they're not winning. And again, it's nothing to do with him. So, to me, what the Kansas City Chiefs have been doing is it just highlights so much how great that coaching staff really is, and it's remarkable, quite frankly. It really, really is. But yeah, okay, let's go through this. We kind of just went backwards because where we ended with the Chiefs, but I'll start back up at the top with 10. Yeah, I'm not so sure I'm gonna put the Dallas Cowboys in top 10 over, say, the 49ers. That doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. I know the 49ers have had some of their issues, but they've played better teams than the Cowboys and have played them better. And so I'm going to absolutely put the 49ers in there over the Cowboys. I would maybe even put the Cardinals in there over the Cowboys. I'm trying to think if there's any other teams that jump out right now. Normally, I don't pick the teams that I think that are better, or I just leave it as it is. But I feel like those are the teams that really stick out to me more than anything. Yeah, the Falcons. The Falcons are such an interesting team to me at 9. They really played. They're starting to catch their stride now, and they had a big game against the Buccaneers. Oh yeah, that's another team. I probably would put the Buccaneers in there over the Cowboys, honestly. But that's a question mark. That's also dependent on health. But so you have the Falcons, and I'm not so sure who the Falcons are moving forward. I love everything that they're doing. I love Raheem Morris. I love what Kirk Cousins has been able to do. But when I look at these games, and this is part of the problem, when you do play a team like the Kansas City Chiefs, you're like, that wasn't a great game, but it was the Kansas City Chiefs. And then you can say, well, what about versus the Eagles? And it's like, well, are the Eagles a good team this year? We're going to find out soon enough. If the Eagles are actually a good team, then that win also looks a lot better. But if they're not, if they're a really bad team, it's like, you took a dropped Saquon Barkley pass, to win that game. So it's like, to me, the Falcons are this fringe great team, which is probably why they're 9, right? They have the potential to truly be great, but can they do it consistently? Because that's what you need to do. That's what you need to do. And again, when I'm looking at this top 10 too, I'm looking at it through the lens of, can they win a Super Bowl? Because what's the point of being a top 10 team if we're not considering if you can win a Super Bowl, right? If you're just like, oh, we were a top 10 team, we played pretty good, there you go. That's not what I'm looking at it right now, right? The Falcons went out and paid for Kirk Cousins because they're like, we're going to try to make a run at this, right? The Bills want to make a run. The Texans, they went out and got Diggs. They want to make a run. The Packers just paid Jordan Love a gajillion dollars. They want to make a run, right? The Washington Commanders, they're the ones that are kind of like, hey, how did we get here? And maybe technically the Vikings. But the Lions were ready to make a run. The Ravens, ready to make a run. Chiefs obviously have made multiple runs. So that's where I'm looking at the Falcons right now. I'm looking at it as, can you make a run, right? Can you consistently win? Or is it going to come down to, this guy just fumbled in their own red zone, or this team dropped a pass, right, and had weird play calling, because that's what it took to get a couple of those wins for the Falcons. And again, I'm not saying anything negative about the Falcons. I like the Falcons, but it's just I'm holding all of these teams to very high standards, as you'll see as I get to the Bills. The Bills, they've had some ugly losses. Their losses were really, really ugly. And when you look at their wins, you're like, okay, they did beat a Dolphins team who's not that good. They beat the Jags, we know are awful. And they beat the Cardinals, who are like sometimes great, sometimes not. They're kind of a tough team to figure out as well. And then they got rolled by the Ravens. And we saw what technically an inferior team of the Bengals. The Bengals almost beat the Ravens. Right? I mean, like, that was a crazy duel. And yet when you look at those two games, when you look at the Bills versus the Ravens and the Ravens versus the Bengals, you're going to be like, the Bengals are a better team than the Bills. Right? And so that's some of the disconnect. So I'm not sure what the Buffalo Bills are going to look like moving forward. Last week's game was a really, really ugly game. I hated the play calling. I hated the game plan. It was just a bizarre game, but also it was a bizarre game, and yet you still almost won. You lost to a 59-yard field goal, but also you were given a couple gifts by the Texans, the fumble, the interception, that weren't necessarily earned by just a tough, gritty defense by the Bills. So I don't know what to make of the Bills right now, quite frankly. I believe that they're a top 10 team, but it's just like, again, I'm looking at this as like, can they win a Super Bowl? And it's just like, I'm like, I don't know, man. I really don't. And then the Texans. The Texans have won some really interesting games too. Because again, I'm looking at the Texans, can they win a Super Bowl? When you see a team like the Ravens roll the Bills, right? And then now you almost lose. You give up the ball a couple times, and you need a 59-yard field goal to win the game. It's like, who are the Texans right now? Now, the Texans are a little banged up, and so I do give them the grace. I'm not like Colin, where I'm going to be like, there's no excuses. Like, there is. So they Nico Collins getting injured. Mixon obviously hasn't been there. So it's like, I have to see what this team looks like 100%. Again, I believe that they're a top 10 team as well. But it's one of those things too where I believe that they're also going to continue to get better as the season comes along, and I think they'll catch their stride deeper in the season. Same thing with the Green Bay Packers. I think Jordan Love is an unbelievable talent as well, just like CJ Stroud. They've had a weird start to the season because of injuries and whatnot, and playing. Jordan Love comes back and he plays against the Vikings, which is a tough matchup for him. And yeah, again, it hasn't been a perfect landing from him coming back from injuries, but people are so quick to want to now bury the Green Bay Packers, and like, that's just insanity to me, because they're a great team, they're well coached, they know how to execute, they're well prepared, and so yeah. And then the Washington Commanders, right? Obviously, what can you say badly about them? They've just been unbelievable. I will continue to not like the Jaden Daniels light, or the Lamar Jackson light reference, because Jaden Daniels is his own individual quarterback, And I think what he's doing is incredibly special and has the potential to be better than Lamar Jackson, which would be obviously quite extraordinary. Um, he is not reliant on any one aspect of his game. If you took away his legs, his ability to run, he would still be a great passer. If you just minimized his mobility to the levels of you know, Bo Nix or something, right? If you reduced his mobility to a Brock Purdy, someone who's obviously not known for just unleashing their run, he would still be an unbelievable quarterback so far. So that's what's really making him so special, because he can seemingly do it all. And the Washington Commanders obviously are rolling right now. Their game versus the Ravens is going to be fascinating. The Lions, I'm looking at the Lions. For me, it's been hit or miss with the Lions in terms of how great are they playing. They either are playing great, gritty, hard, let's go. You're not on our level. You better believe that if you're going to play us right now, it's going to get intense. Or it's like, what's going on here, right? And again, it's consistency. Who are you consistently? And that's why, you know, they kind of are on the short end of this stick because they had the bye. So I want to see them continue to play games, which is why then that leads me to the Ravens, where you're like, I don't like how the Ravens obviously started, but now these last 3 games, you're like, all right, you seemingly got it right now. Like, let's go. And if they continue that trajectory, right, if they can continue to play this way, you're like, all right, maybe they can beat the Chiefs. Maybe they can get to the Super Bowl. Maybe they can win it all. Who knows? And then the Vikings. The Vikings have obviously, you have the 2 top teams, right? They're both 5-0, and they both deserve to be where they are. I think the Vikings are battle tested. I think they've won games where they were dominant. They've won ugly games. They've beat teams that were hard games to win. They've won on the road, at home, in London, right? Like it's quite remarkable what they're doing. The only reason why people don't have the same amount of trust or faith in them is because of probably more of just Sam Darnold, or just the perceived history and perception of the Vikings. I think if we look at the Chiefs and the Vikings right now, if we had no idea who these quarterbacks were, there was no sense of Andy Reid, Kevin O'Connell, Spags, any of these types of things, Sam Darnold versus Mahomes, and we just looked at these 2 teams right now, you would probably say that the Minnesota Vikings are a better team. But of course, knowing now, obviously, the history and who Patrick Mahomes is and who Andy Reid is and all of that, you're going to probably pick the Kansas City Chiefs. But it's an interesting Super Bowl matchup if we did it, right? Like, if you said, all right, they're in the Super Bowl, who's going to win? You would have to lean towards Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs because of everything they've done. And you know without a shadow of a doubt that they can bring it. You don't have that same level of confidence about the Minnesota Vikings. Right or wrong, it's impossible to have the equal level of confidence. That is the biggest leg up that the Chiefs have, that they have the experienced quarterback, the experienced coach, and the experienced coordinators. That alone, and Super Bowl experience, battle tested in every scenario imaginable. That alone is just going to put you ahead of everyone else in terms of trust, right? So it's just like but again, like I said, if you took that away and you didn't have all that information, you would maybe say, actually, I think the Vikings are better. Or you could say, actually, I think the Ravens are playing better. I know they lost, but that was week 1, right? Like, you could start to justify it, but it's just the weight that Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, and Spags have right now. It just seems like that is just not even a brick wall, but just like, I don't even know. It's just a fortress that it's just like, how do you break through that, if at all possible? So really interesting stuff. This season has been just wild. I was talking about that in the comments. Like, this season has been so unpredictable. Teams have been kind of all over the place, and it's been a wild ride. It's definitely, I can't tell if all these teams are great, if they're just average, if they're just good. Like, it's been wild. It really, really has. And that's why the NFL is undefeated, honestly, because it's just completely unpredictable. No one was predicting that the Commanders would be right here. No one was predicting that it was going to be the Vikings right here. No one predicted that the Chiefs would keep winning despite all of their injuries, right? Like, it's just been a wild, wild, wild ride, and I am all for it. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about Colin herd hierarchy. Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I'd absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.